Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's talk about your scope. You ever look at those turrets with all the numbers and clicks and just feel kind of lost? Yeah, you're not the only one. Today, we're going to crack the code on the two systems that pretty much run the world of precision shooting, MOA and MRAD.
So let's just jump right in. What do these numbers on your scope actually mean? Are they inches, clicks, some kind of secret shooter's code? Well, in a way, they're all three. And trust me, understanding them is the absolute key to hitting what you're aiming at. Stick with me, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly which system is right for you.
Okay, so before we can even compare MOA and MRAD, we have to lock in one single fundamental concept. This right here is the aha moment. This is the idea that makes everything else just click.
This is it. This is the most important thing you need to get. When you turn that knob on your scope, you are not moving your crosshairs a set distance, like 1 inch. You're actually tilting the entire scope, changing the angle.
Think about it like a cone, or even a laser pointer. Right at the lens, the dot is tiny, but shine it across the room, and that dot gets bigger. Your scope works the same way. The adjustment is an angle, and the effect of that angle, the distance your bullet impact moves, grows the further away your target is.
So, now that we're all on the same page that we're dealing with angles, let's meet the two languages your scope uses to measure them. You've got minute of angle, or MOA, and milliradian, or MRAD.
You know, probably the easiest way to start wrapping your head around this is to connect each system to the units you already use. If you think in yards and inches, MOA is going to feel really natural. If meters and centimeters are your thing, MRAD will make perfect sense almost instantly.
So first up is MOA, which is incredibly popular, especially in the US. And the reason is this super simple, easy to remember rule. 1 MOA is almost exactly 1 inch at 100 yards. That means it's 2 inches at 200, 3 inches at 300. You see how easy that is? It makes doing math in your head on the fly a total breeze if you grew up with inches.
And then you've got MRAD, or mils, and its whole beauty is just pure base 10 simplicity. A single click on most MRAD scopes, that's a 0.1 mil click, moves your impact exactly 1 centimeter at 100 meters. So you need to move 10 centimeters? That's 10 clicks. The math is just so clean.
And here's where you can see it all laid out, the hard numbers. This chart really shows how those simple rules work. See that 100-yard line? There it is. 1 MOA equals 1 inch. Now look at the 100-meter line for MRAD. Yep, 1 click is 1 centimeter. This is where all that theory becomes real.
Okay, time to bust a quick myth. You'll hear people call MRAD the metric system, and while it's a helpful shortcut, it's not technically true. MRAD is just a way to slice up a circle, same as MOA. It just so happens that the math behind it lines up perfectly with a base 10 system like metric, which is super convenient.
All right, that is plenty of theory for now. Let's actually put this stuff into practice. How does this translate to you, on the range, actually dialing your scope and hitting the target?
So imagine this. You fire a group, you look through your spotting scope, and you see you're 6 centimeters low. With a typical MRAD scope, you know that 1 click is 1 centimeter at this distance. So the math is, well, there's barely any math. You need to come up 6 clicks, you dial it in, send another round, and you're dead on. It really is that simple. Okay, listen up, because this next part is, without a doubt, the single most important practical piece of advice in this entire explainer. If you get this one thing right, you are going to save yourself a massive headache. This is it. This is the golden rule. Your reticle, the crosshairs inside the scope, and your turrets, the knobs you turn, they have to speak the same language. MOA reticle, MOA turrets. Mil reticle, mil turrets. End of story.
So why is this such a big deal? Because if they don't match, you're forcing yourself to do some really annoying math in your head right when you're trying to focus. If you see through your mil reticle that your shot was off by 1 mil, you can't just dial 1 mil. You have to convert it to 3.438 MOA before you even touch a knob. With a matched system, it's just simple. You see you're off by 1 mil, you dial 1 mil. What you see is what you get.
Okay, so for all of you who are wanting to really stretch the legs on your rifle and push out to some serious distances, there's one more piece of gear we should talk about.
Has this ever happened to you? You're dialing for a really long shot. You're dialing, and then clunk. The elevation turret just stops. It's maxed out, and you still have more to go. It's a classic long-range problem, but luckily, there's a simple fix. And the solution is a canted scope base. It's just a rail that physically tilts your scope down a tiny bit. Now I know,
That sounds totally backward, right? Tilting the scope down to shoot up. But by pointing it down, you have to dial up a bunch just to get your 100-yard zero. And what that does is it repositions the scope's internal travel, giving you way more up adjustment for those really, really long shots.
So which one do you need? Well, here's a basic cheat sheet. For most shooting and hunting inside 300 yards or so, a standard flat base is totally fine. But once you start pushing past that, a 10 or 20 MOA base becomes a seriously smart upgrade to unlock your scope's true potential.
And hey, here's a super simple trick to see if you need one. Next time you're zeroed, take a look at your elevation turret. If you've already used up more than half of your total up adjustment just to get to 100 yards, then yeah, a canted base is probably a really good idea for you. Okay, we've covered the what, the how, and even some of the extra gear. So let's finally land this plane and answer the big question we started with. MOA or MRAD? Which one is actually better?
And the answer honestly has nothing to do with which one is more accurate or more pro. It all comes down to what's already inside your head. Pick the system that matches the way you already think about distance. That's the one that's going to be faster and more intuitive for you when it counts.
So look, the bottom line is this. There is no wrong answer. One is not smarter or better or more precise than the other. They are just two different languages for measuring the exact same thing. The best system is not the one your buddy uses, it's the one that just makes sense to you.
So there you have it. The numbers on the turret are no longer a mystery. The code is cracked. You now have the knowledge you need to pick the right gear and, more importantly, use it with confidence. You can finally speak the language of your scope. So the only question left is, how far are you going to go?